Introduction: The hidden secret of male sensitivity. Have you ever wondered why some touches feel electrifying while others barely register? Why a single brush of the skin in the right place can send shockwaves through the body, while firmer contact elsewhere does almost nothing? Welcome to Stoic Mindset Wisdom, where we uncover the psychology, the biology, and the hidden truths behind human behavior and intimacy. Today, we dive into a question that has intrigued men for centuries. What is the most sensitive part of the penis? And why does it hold such immense power over male arousal and pleasure? At first glance, the answer may seem obvious. But the reality is far deeper than simple anatomy. It's a story that intertwines nerves and emotions, body and brain, instinct and culture. A story that begins with one of the most fascinating areas of male physiology, the glans, the head of the penis, and its small but mighty ally, the frenulum. But here's the twist. This sensitivity isn't just biology. It's not only about nerves and skin. It's about psychology, context, and the unseen dance between the mind and the body. And once you understand it, you'll never look at male desire, intimacy, or even relationships the same way again. Because buried inside this single area of anatomy is not just the key to male pleasure, but a mirror reflecting how men connect, how they bond, and even how they lose themselves when desire takes control. And just when you think you know where this story ends, the science reveals an even bigger surprise. Part 1. The anatomy. Behind pleasure, more than skin deep, when most people think of male sensitivity, they immediately assume it's all about physical stimulation, touch, friction, pressure. But here's the reality. Not all areas of the penis are created equal. Some regions are designed to withstand pressure and movement, while others are wired as if nature placed thousands of tiny lightning bolts beneath the skin. At the center of this lies the glans, commonly called the head. Is built more for endurance. The glans is packed with an incredibly dense network of sensory nerves. Scientists estimate that this small region contains thousands of nerve endings, rivaling the clitoris in women in terms of raw sensitivity. But there's an even more intriguing detail. The underside of the glans, where it meets the shaft, forms a tiny V-shaped fold of skin called the frenulum. To the casual eye, it looks insignificant, just a small connecting tissue. Yet this is one of the most reactive zones in the entire male body. A light touch here can send signals racing up the spinal cord, flooding the brain with sensations so sharp they can border on overwhelming. Why is this tiny spot so powerful? The answer lies in the dorsal nerve of the penis, a nerve branch responsible for delivering sensory information straight to the brain. The frenulum is like the command center where these nerves converge and fire intensely. When stimulated, the brain doesn't just register touch, it translates the signal into waves of pleasure, arousal, and even a heightened sense of connection with a partner. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Sensitivity is not fixed. It can change depending on a man's genetics, hormones, circumcision status, and even psychological state. For example, research shows that uncircumcised men often report higher sensitivity in the glans during early adulthood. The foreskin acts like a protective sheath, shielding the area from constant friction. Over time, this preservation can keep the tissue softer and more responsive. On the other hand, men who are circumcised may experience less raw sensitivity in the glans, but often report higher endurance during intimacy. This raises an interesting paradox. Is sensitivity always a blessing? Or can it sometimes be a curse? Because just as the frenulum can deliver pleasure, overstimulation in this spot can also lead to discomfort, pain, or even nerve fatigue. It's like fire, capable of warmth, but also of burning. And here's the part most people overlook: the brain plays an equal, if not greater, role in this sensitivity than the anatomy itself. Two identical touches can feel completely different depending on a man's emotional state, stress levels, or the context of intimacy. Anticipation, attraction, or even a whispered word can magnify sensation to an almost unbearable intensity. Conversely, anxiety, shame, distraction can dull even the most direct stimulation. This duality, body and mind, nerves and psychologies, the hidden truth behind male pleasure. But we're only scratching the surface, because if you think The glans and frenulum are the final answer. You're in for a surprise. Scientists have discovered other unexpected UST zones that challenge everything we thought we knew about male sensitivity, and they may hold the key to unlocking an entirely new level of intimacy. Part 2. In zones, the untold map of male sensitivity. Most men grow up believing that their body's pleasure centers begin and end with the obvious. The shaft, the head, the orgasm, that's it. Case closed. But the truth is far more layered. The human body is not just biology, it's an intricate map of nerves, its pathways, and trigger points that science is only beginning to fully understand. And within this map, there are hidden areas of sensitivity that remain unexplored for most. Men throughout their lives, one of the most surprising regions is the perineum, the small strip of skin located between the base of the scrotum and the anus. At first glance, it looks ordinary, almost forgettable. But beneath this patch lies a cluster of nerve endings tied directly into the same pleasure circuits as the penis. Gentle pressure here can produce sensations that range from subtle warmth to overwhelming waves of stimulation. Then there are the inner thighs. While not as densely packed with sensory receptors as the glans or frenulum, the skin here is thin and richly supplied with nerves. Touching or stroking this area often triggers not just physical arousal, but also psychological anticipation, because the brain interprets it as close, not quite. It's a tease, a promise of what's about to happen, amplifying desire before direct contact is ever made. Even the nipples, it's often overlooked in men, tell another fascinating story. Studies show that nipple stimulation activates the same brain regions as genital touch. Yet because many men dismiss this area as irrelevant, they never realize how powerful it can be in the broader context of arousal and connection. And then, perhaps the most mysterious of all, the prostate gland, located internally, accessible. Through gentle pressure, this organ is sometimes called the male G-spot. Scientifically known as the prostatic urethral complex, it can produce sensations unlike anything else. While surrounded by cultural taboos, from a purely biological perspective, the prostate stands as one of the most overlooked centers of pleasure in the male body. But here's where psychology again intertwines with biology. Not every man responds to these zones in the same way. For some, these areas are electrifying. For others, they feel neutral or even uncomfortable. Why? Because sensitivity isn't just wired into nerves, it's shaped by beliefs, culture, and past experiences. A man raised in an environment where discussing sexuality is taboo may unconsciously block himself from exploring certain parts of his own body. Another man, confident and curious, may discover layers of sensitivity that reshape his entire view of intimacy. This leads to a powerful truth. The body holds infinite potential, but the mind decides how much of it we unlock. And if these hidden zones can change how we understand male pleasure, imagine what happens when we look deeper beyond biology into why these areas exist in the first place. Because sensitivity is not random. Evolution rarely wastes energy. Every nerve, every receptor, every reflex exists for a reason. And the answer may reveal not just how men experience pleasure, but why human intimacy itself evolved the way it did. Part 3. Evolutions. Design. Why sensitivity exists? Nature is rarely wasteful. Every nerve ending, every receptor, every reflex in the human body has been refined through millions of years of survival and reproduction. Which begs the question, why would evolution make certain parts of the male body so intensely sensitive? Obvious answer is reproduction. The human species thrives when men and women are drawn together, when pleasure bonds them, and when that bond increases the likelihood of passing on their genes. Sensitivity in the glans, frenulum, and surrounding regions ensures that the act of reproduction is not just mechanical, but powerfully rewarding, compelling enough to repeat again and again. But evolution's design goes even deeper. Consider this. If reproduction were purely mechanical, driven only by instinct, human intimacy might resemble that of countless other animals, brief, transactional, and detached. Instead, human sexuality is layered with anticipation, bonding, and emotion. The heightened sensitivity of certain areas in men and women serves as an anchor, tying physical intimacy to emotional connection when nerve signals from the frenulum or prostate surge toward the brain. They don't simply light up areas linked to raw sensation. They also activate regions tied to reward, memory, and bonding. In other words, evolution designed these pleasure centers not just to create arousal, but to encourage attachment. The more rewarding the act, the more likely two people are to stay close, to trust one another, and to form lasting bonds. Bonds that to protect offspring and ensure survival. Yet there's a paradox here. If sensitivity evolved to promote connection, why do some men struggle with intimacy or feel disconnected from their partners, even during physical closeness? The answer lies in the mind. Evolution can wire the body for sensation,